Okay. All right, you ready?
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the SST Podcast. We hope that this episode will not be your last. It's SST's very own variety show. Come on down, meet your two hosts. Then we cut.
I got way intro. All right, welcome to the SST Podcast, Episode 2. Today we're going to be starting things off with some Reddit readings. Am I the asshole? Here's our first one. Am I the asshole for not waking up my roommate on the day of his final med school exam? So, I, 23 male, and my roommate Justin, 23 male, are med students. We've been living together as roommates for 2 years, and we live in a hostel. Last week was our final year exams, and it was absolute hell. We were surviving on 2 to 3 hours of sleep daily, fueled by coffee and energy drinks. On the last day of exams, Justin was unusually exhausted. Around 1 a.m., he decided to sleep and told me to wake him up at 3 a.m. I agreed. However, by 2:30 a.m., I was dead. My brain was shutting down, my notes were getting blurry, and I knew if I stayed up any longer, I'd pass out. I decided to wake Justin up early. I woke Justin up at 2:30 and told him the time, and he set an alarm so he wouldn't oversleep. Justin sat upright, rubbed his eyes, and nodded and said, "All right." I was like, "Don't forget to set the alarm," and then instantly fell asleep. We both woke up at 8 a.m. Justin freaked out, accusing me of not waking him up as promised. I reminded him that I did wake him up at 2:30 a.m. and suggested he set an alarm. Justin said that he was too sleepy to comprehend what's happening and insisted I should have stayed awake at 3 a.m. or at least made sure he was fully awake before sleeping. Justin's exam didn't go well, and now he's blaming me. Am I the asshole?
Well, I think absolutely not. I'm going to have to go Magnate's pick, NTA on this one. Official NTA from Magnate. I think waking him up at 2:30 was entirely reasonable, and you even managed to get audible confirmation of his consciousness at that time and reminded him to set an alarm. I think at that point you've sort of you've passed on the responsibility to this Justin guy, who I am going to have to put on blast for failing his own med school exam. What is your pick, Mogul?
I'm going to have to agree NTA here. I think Justin is just taking his anger out at the world, shall we say. He failed the exam. If he did good on that exam, got up late, he would be thanking his roommate right here. But no, he did bad, and he has to take it out on somebody. And who better to take it out on than the man who woke him up 30 minutes early and put him back to sleep with no alarm.
Put him back. Would he be thanking his roommate if he did well on the exam?
I think so. He would. He would have been like, wow, getting up at 8 a.m. was a good idea. I'm assuming his exam wasn't at 8, and I don't know why he got up at 6. Maybe he would have been more ready to go. But I think for this one, we both agree NTA.
A double NTA for the first one. Do you want me to read this one? This next one?
Sure, yeah. Here's number 2.
Am I the asshole for ruining my brother's childhood memory by admitting I photoshopped it 14 years ago? When my younger brother, 20 now, was 6, he went through a huge Harry Potter phase. Haven't we all? He loved the wizarding world and believed he might meet Harry Potter, Daniel Radcliffe, or other characters on a family trip to Scotland, since Hogwarts was quote-unquote there. No one promised him this, but he convinced himself it could happen. Sadly, the trip was cancelled after our grandpa passed away. My brother was devastated for both reasons. To cheer him up, I decided to craft a souvenir. I was 16 and had just discovered Photoshop, so I edited a picture of my brother with Daniel Radcliffe to make it look like they'd met. I printed it, framed it, and gave it to him without telling him it was fake. He loved it and fully believed he'd met Daniel. Soon, he had an entire story about the meeting, what they talked about, how Daniel hugged him, etc. It was so sweet, and none of us, my family and I, had the heart to tell him the truth. Fast forward 14 years, my brother still didn't know that the old low-quality picture of him meeting Daniel Radcliffe is fake. I never told him because his memory of the fake meeting felt so real to him that it became one of his proudest stories. Over time, the memory became less important, and the framed picture had been packed away in some box. My brother had long outgrown his Harry Potter obsession. However, we were at our parents' home, and we were bringing up old memories. You know how it goes. And the story of meeting Daniel Radcliffe came up. Thinking it was harmless, I told him the truth. I thought he'd laugh, but instead he got visibly upset. He told me that it feels like I robbed him of a real childhood memory that he really cherished, and he feels embarrassed thinking about all the times he's told people about meeting Daniel Radcliffe in person. Even recently, we ended our conversation on a semi-good note, though I apologized for not telling him sooner, because I do feel bad that it meant so much to him even now. But I don't regret it. Back then, it made him so happy during a rough time. And I don't regret giving him that joy. I just didn't realize how much it still meant to him. So I'm just wondering, am or was I the asshole?
I'm going to have to say NTA on this one. I think that this was a genius move by the older sibling. Absolutely genius. The younger brother, 6 years old, what was he? Having a rough time, and he needed some cheering up. The photoshopped image, it was completely harmless. He'll get over it in no time at all. He's already 20. I mean, come on now. It's no problem for him. NTA, I'm locking that in. What do you think?
I'm gonna have to go YA. Official first YA of this podcast segment. Why did you implant a fake memory in your brother's 6-year-old mind? How did he believe it for so long? I can't imagine you were that good at Photoshop. But also, he's grieving the death of his grandfather, and he's no longer able to go on his family trip. And you give this emotionally unstable 6-year-old a falsified memory and tell him it's real and that he somehow met Daniel Radcliffe and forgot. It's just an insane concept, so I am going to have to go YA on this one. Magnate's pick YA.
She should have just never told him. He would have been fine.
Known.
He would never have known.
No way.
He would never have known.
There's no way.
He would have been happy. The photo was too blurry to tell, even if it was a bad Photoshop job.
It was too blurry.
Let him imagine. Let him believe. All right, we got a split decision on this one.
Split decision.
All right. Number 3.
Yeah, we're back.
Am I the asshole for making a seat swapper cry? All right, so I board the plane, settle into my economy plus seat. Woman approaches me and asks me to change seats to 32B so her 9-year-old can sit with her. I ask how much cash she has to repay me for the money I spent on the seat. She says I'm cruel for leaving her son with anxiety sitting alone. I ask if she offered the person sitting next to her seat in Economy Plus. She said they needed the leg room. I said clearly she cares more about her own comfort than her son's well-being, and if she cared, she would give up her seat and move to the back. She breaks out in a screaming wail filled with "how could yous?" 10 minutes later, a smiling man sits down next to me, grinning about his sweet upgrade. My partner says, "Am I the asshole for questioning her parenting in public and making her cry? Am I?" Sorry, my partner says I am the asshole.
Now that's an interesting twist on this story. Of course, we do always hear these Reddit stories only from one person's perspective. And I think OP here was definitely a little more aggressive than they needed to be, accusing the mother of what did they say? Caring more about herself. Her own comfort than her son's well-being. But with those caveats noted, I still think I do have to go NTA. Magnate's pick will be an NTA because ultimately the woman had other options, and OP here paid for their seat legally. The woman could have swapped with someone in Economy Plus and given them that, little seat upgrade. And it would have been much easier and much smoother than trying to negotiate someone who paid for a business class seat to move down a tier. So I think I do have to go NTA.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that one, NTA. I think that honestly, the woman here overreacting about this whole thing. If she wanted to find a solution, it could have been found. And she honestly should have just tried someone else instead of berating the OP here. I do think that the OP didn't handle it the best by asking how much cash she would offer her, implying that there was an amount needed for her to switch the seat. And I think it would have been better if she just refused outright. But other than that, NTA, I'm saying.
NTA. This is a good one.
This is a good one.
Am I the asshole for answering the door in a spicy costume? So I'm 24 female, and my brother has been gone. So I'm 24 female, and my boyfriend has been gone for a few weeks visiting family on the other side of the world. Coincidentally, the death of one of my coworkers meant I had to work a lot more during those weeks. And I was honestly pretty miserable and pent up the whole time. The one thing keeping me going was the thought of having a wild night when he got home. My boyfriend's sister texted me and asked if she could come over when he got home. I said we would both be really tired and eager to be alone, and said it'd be best to wait. Then I put my phone on silent, which meant I didn't get her text that said she knew her brother. He'll find energy to say hi. When he got home, the moment he was sufficiently unpacked, I changed into a Playboy bunny suit. Then his sister knocked on the door and yelled hello. I was pretty pissed off, so I didn't put any effort into hiding my angry expression and answered the door in the outfit. I was pretty cold with her, and she got passive-aggressive before reluctantly leaving. She said it was petty and dramatic over the phone, and I just hung up, prompting some angry texts. Am I the asshole?
I have to think about this one, but I'm leaning NTA as of right now.
There is a lot to consider.
There's a lot, yes, a lot to unpack about this one.
I think the boyfriend's perspective is definitely relevant, and it's not something we get to see in this post. That, I think, could sway me between YA and NTA.
I think, yeah, depending on if the sister checked with the boyfriend as well about coming over.
Right. I think ultimately we do have to make a decision based on the information we are given, though.
So we're going to assume she didn't ask her brother, the sister didn't ask her brother whether it would be a good day to come over and visit him. And she just came after OP here said no.
I think that makes some sense, because we do note the text that says she, quote, knew her brother.
Mm-hmm.
He'll find energy to say hi, which maybe even suggests that the brother wasn't necessarily so inviting to her in that instance.
Or he was very oblivious to the whole situation.
I think this is my questionable NTA. And I think the title is really not applicable. That is a small part of a bigger story, I think. What's Mogul's pick?
I'm going to say YA. I know she had a rough time at work and then she wanted to have a big night with her boyfriend. But I think she could have handled it with a bit more patience. And her ultimately, the sister of her boyfriend was just excited to see him again. And even if she did show up uninvited, maybe they're off to a rock. Maybe they didn't like each other. But from what I'm reading here, I think she should be a bit more forgiving for her sister for wanting to see her brother, especially after he was gone for a few weeks on the other side of the world. So I'm going to have to say YA, but it's a toss-up, really, depending on how you look at this one.
I don't hate that take either, honestly. Let's do one more.
Last one.
Uh-huh. This one you're reading.
Am I the asshole for firing my best friend / podcast co-host? So basically, my friend, 20 male, we'll call him SST MOGUL to hide his identity. He's basically been doing all the editing for the podcast and videos we make together while I do nothing. Sounds like a sweet deal, but it's not. This bozo's been late on releasing our YouTube shorts several times in the past few weeks. How am I supposed to get famous on YouTube without a consistent upload schedule? I think it's time to fire his ass.
Interesting. Lots to think about on this one.
There is a lot to think about.
Yeah.
I think this is applicable to anyone in the podcast business.
And ultimately, I think I'm going to have to do an early NTA on this.
Oh, no.
An early NTA. This guy seems pretty reasonable. Sounds like he's probably a pretty successful musician, maybe, in addition to his podcasting. Oh. He might have, like, hypothetically, let's say, the most successful short on their YouTube channel. I don't know. It could be true.
I'm going to have to go YA 100%. Firing your friend from a podcast you don't even make money on? That's humiliating.
We run ads.
We do run ads.
We run ads.
The ads lose money, actually, because we used our time to make them. We got nothing in return.
Once we're monetized.
The YouTube shorts have been late several times in the past few weeks, but at least they've been coming out. They've been coming out no problem, and they've been getting big views, I can only imagine.
Big views.
Maybe 500 on the last one?
Big.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm locking in YA. Absolutely
I guess this
asshole
will be
here.
a split decision for this one.
We'll have to see in the next podcast if a Bogle comes back. But I think he will.
All right, that's the end of Reddit. Am I the asshole? Our first segment.
All right.
And then we'll cut to Melee Minute.
Welcome back to Melee Minute. In this segment, I'm going to be covering a breaking news story while we play Smash Melee for 1 minute. I'm going to give 30 seconds to explain it to Noah, and then he'll have 30 seconds to give his take on the story.
Since Alex won last month's Melee Minute, I'm counterpicking to Yoshi's story. Let's go.
All right, this week's story concerns Vladimir the beluga whale, former Russian spy. He was found dead outside coastal waters somewhere in Russia, I forget. The authorities and scientists who investigated the crime say that his death was not of natural cause. Who do you think killed this Russian spy whale and local hero?
I think definitely someone who maybe stood or was affected by this whale's spying activities. I heard that it had cameras strapped, and that's it for this week's Melee Minute. You better have some themes to talk about. Okay, welcome to segment 2 of the SST Podcast, where we bring back our segment from last week, Book Club. This week we are continuing our reading of SST Mantis's, of our very own SST Mantis's, The Magic Trio. This week we're going to go over Chapter 2. I'll provide a brief summary, and then we'll discuss the themes from this chapter, from this week's chapter.
All right, let's get into that.
Beginning in Chapter 2, our main character Timothy is just leaving the library where he was with Kishan, Felix, and Lucille, and they're actually going to exchange phone numbers. Now keep your eye on this because it's going to come back later. Timothy travels to parkour class with Kishan, hosted by Mr. Dreda, and describes the classroom as quote-unquote ninja's playground. Mr. Dreda claims to be able to teach any parkour or free-running skill in the world. Today's lesson seems to be them learning a variety of vaults, and ultimately, Timothy is going to struggle with some of these vaults and embarrass himself on a fall. We get the quote, Corbin and some others guffawed loudly at Timothy's crash. Timothy moves on after parkour class. He moves on to Weaponry A with Mr. Esmond. The door is locked to this classroom, so for some reason Timothy tries scanning his thumb and his eye before using the badge he was given to get in. I'm not sure why he didn't do that first. After entering this classroom, though, Timothy is going to be targeted by 10 red beams, directing laser-guided missiles directly at him. Luckily, Mr. Esmond is there to come in with the clutch disarm. The lesson is a combat simulation test, and it's done in VR, so it's not really a lesson. Timothy is very inexperienced in VR and finds himself out of his depth, but he's in this class with Felix, and he notices Felix is quite the expert already. Timothy is eliminated after falling out of a tree after losing track of Felix. And after coming to in the real world, he describes a headache as though a swarm of bees was stinging him from the inside. Felix, though, is still in the game. It's sort of a Fortnite battle royale, if you will, in VR between all the students of, what was this, Weaponry A?
Yeah.
Felix is going absolutely crazy, but he's about to get picked off by this sniper. Luckily, Timothy quickly calls him up on his phone that they exchanged numbers earlier. Felix answers it mid-game, and Timothy is able to actually alert him about this sniper. Felix grabs another student that he's fighting and holds him in front of the sniper, gets that student eliminated, protects himself, and then destroys the sniper with a missile, ultimately winning the battle royale and getting congratulations from Mr. Esmond. The girl who was trying to snipe Felix is very confused how he was able to find out so suddenly that she was there. But Timothy keeps his mouth shut, afraid of getting in trouble. Felix is placed on the wall of winners for his achievement, and Timothy feels a bit of jealousy, as he believes he deserves some credit for calling Felix mid-game. This jealousy boils over very quickly, and Timothy snaps at Felix after Felix refuses to share a note given to him by Mr. Esmond. Timothy reflects on this a moment later as, quote, one of his angry thoughts. I believe Timothy's last class of the day is pre-calculus with Miss Sullivan, where nothing happens.
It's noted that they have an advanced whiteboard, though.
It is
a sophisticated
noted.
piece of technology.
It is described that the whiteboard features as a computer, but without having a projector or appearing to be plugged into anything. We then cut to Timothy walking back after his first day at MAT. He reflects on the advanced machines he saw all day at MAT, and on his way back, he stumbles upon a strange-looking garden with striking colors. He sees an iridescent butterfly, a glowing yellow apple, and eventually a mysterious silver bracelet. He feels himself being mentally pulled to this bracelet, and unable to resist, he reaches out and touches it, only to be stunned in a flash of light. He comes to moments later. The garden is no longer so vibrant, and the bracelet is gone. He finds himself paralyzed, and his mind flooded with new memories. Luckily, his great-aunt Georgina happens to be passing by, and as soon as she appears, he snaps out of his trance, and she scolds him for playing in the mud.
Oh my goodness.
Timothy eventually returns home, where his mother has prepared dinner. He tries to tell his father about his day, but his father is too immersed in work to pay him any mind. And on the television, Timothy catches a report about a mysterious bracelet that has gone missing from a police evidence locker. That concludes Chapter 2. Now, SST Mogul, tell us about some of the themes you're noticing.
Yeah, I'm noticing that there's a lot to unpack in this chapter, too, especially once we find out that Timothy's father is a bit of an absent figure in his life, clearly uninterested, or not uninterested, but preoccupied in his own work and having little time to give Timothy. And that seems like this may have been something going on, as Timothy is constantly seeking admiration from those around him, which is exemplified in his jealousy over Felix getting the credit for a win that he thinks he deserves some praise for, and is compounded by the fact that Felix doesn't tell Mr. Esmond that he called him up to help. And initially, Timothy is torn about this because he knows that deep down he knows that it would get him in trouble if it was leaked that he helped Felix get onto the winner's wall. But I think even deeper down, he wanted it known that he was the reason Felix is on the winner's wall. What do you think about this, Magnate?
I think we definitely see some insights into the flaws of Timothy's character, his jealousy, his rage, his angry thoughts. And I can only hope that the people in Timothy's life, the innocent students of MAT, don't fall victim to any of his rage.
I'm thinking that maybe a more robust humanities field in MAT could help Timothy explore this rather than having him fully immersed in the sciences that seem not only closely linked to his father's activity, which she clearly admires and aspires to, as he notes that he has a hobby of programming, just like his father, a software engineer. Perhaps this is foreshadowing that one day he'll turn into his father, an absent figure to his child. That would be a shame, wouldn't it, now?
The ultimate downfall of Timothy, or you have Timothy's character.
But in the garden, it's like he's being reborn, in a way.
I did want to talk about that symbolism quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
SST Mantis specifically notes an iridescent butterfly, a yellow glowing apple, and then eventually the silver bracelet that Timothy comes in contact with. What do we think any of these symbols could mean?
I'm thinking the butterfly is a reference to the Lumafly from Hollow Knight. That's a popular game, and I know that SST Mantis liked that one.
Was it out in 2019?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
So, I think that was the reference there. And then the reference to the apple being gold was a golden apple from Minecraft. There's just no other explanation. An apple in a garden that has some sort of mystical properties. It's a golden apple. It heals Timothy. He didn't eat it, though.
He did not eat it.
The apple returned to red after he touched the bracelet. So I think if he ate the golden apple, he would have been better off. How about you?
I think anytime I see a garden and apples, I have to assume this is an allusion to the Christian myth of creation. I think this garden could, in some sense, be allegorical to the Garden of Eden, and the apple of what, good and evil, of all knowledge?
I don't know.
Something like that. And what we see, interestingly, is that this silver bracelet might well be Timothy's apple, much as Eve took the apple from the snake back in the Garden of Eden.
Certainly, yes.
Timothy is drawn to this silver bracelet of his own volition, and what evils will it unleash within him?
Well, I think we know what physical evil it may unleash to him should he have come into prolonged contact with the bracelet. That was seen earlier in the prologue with the man who had an encounter with a similar item. But as to what mental evils it could unleash, perhaps a compounding of his inner anger and resentment towards the people in his life, and furthering his jealousy of Felix Hernandez, the muscular man in the simulation, absolutely bodying the other students. I bet he ate a golden apple in the simulation, and that's why he did so well. Didn't die. It was noted that he got hit by a grenade and he tanked the hit. Unlike Timothy, who got hit by a similar grenade, didn't even get hit by it, actually. It hit the tree beneath him, and then he died. But Felix, just too much of a beast to go down to such a strike.
So let's talk about some of the other characters, because in this chapter, I believe Timothy primarily interacts with, well, we'll say 2 friends at school and then a few members of his family that we've already discussed. But he first goes to parkour training with Kishan, and it's noted that Kishan is very proficient at most of the parkour skills we're learning. Then he moves on to weaponry in VR, and it's noted that Felix now is the one who's extremely proficient in this VR battle royale simulation. It seems that all of Timothy's friends sort of fit into these archetypal molds of being experts at a specific skill. I have to wonder what the skills will be for Timothy's other... Who were the other characters from the first part? Because there were a couple he didn't meet. Oh, right, and this is a continuation of... Who was that girl from before who was good at lockpicking?
That
was from Stealth
Kayla.
Kayla.
Yeah.
Also fits a similar mold as a character defined by just one single skill. And even Corbin, Timothy's rival, correct?
Yes.
To some extent also fits this mold as the large physical bully, but we don't really see any of his depth as a character, nor do we see the depth of any of Timothy's friends. And I have to wonder if this is actually a reflection of Timothy's own perspective on reality, only seeing the facade of all the people in his life and not exploring deeper, not understanding who they are as people truly.
I think that could be an explanation backed by his innate desire to compare his own abilities to his friends, which leads to this deep insecurity within Timothy, where he constantly feels the need for both admiration and idea of self-confidence, knowing that he can fit in with his friends. And I think that on this first day of school, he didn't have that. Timothy, I believe, specializes in programming, but in the programming class, he was unable to show off his skills and fit in with the crowd of highly specialized individuals, and instead had to listen to a history lecture on history of programming. And I think that may have started to sour his day into these later periods, knowing that his best subject was one where he wasn't able to show his true abilities.
He only sees these people at their best, and so he feels inadequate compared to them, because he refuses to see the depth and flaws of their character, which are unfortunately the only things he seems to see within himself.
Which is unfortunate for Timothy. But after touching this bracelet and being hit with a flood of memories, was it? Or knowledge?
It was new memories.
New memories.
It's not elaborated on too much, I don't think.
Maybe these new memories can be the catalyst for a transformative arc in Timothy's character, where he goes in to better know these people and better trust them outside of their basal relationship to him.
Well, like I said with the allegory to the Christian creation myth, I have to assume now that Timothy has been empowered to choose between good and evil by eating the apple, by touching the bracelet.
I don't think he ate the actual apple, though, unfortunately.
The metaphorical.
I think if he ate the golden apple,
he would have gotten regen 2.
He would have. Absorption 1, maybe.
It's not an apple from Minecraft.
It's not? Oh, okay.
It's not. It was described as a glowing yellow.
Glowing
apple,
yellow,
actually.
my bad. So it was more of a...
So it was an enchanted golden apple.
Oh, I see. So he really should have eaten it in that case.
It would have given him the resistance needed to withstand the bracelet.
I think it was also worth noting that after he did touch the bracelet, did the bracelet disappear? I don't remember this aspect of the story. It disappeared, correct?
Disappeared.
And then after it disappeared, I think the grass around it began to sort of wither away, as if the life force of the bracelet was transferred into another being Timothy. So if the bracelet disappeared and is now, this is speculation, of course, now part of Timothy, if that bracelet disappears again from him, will Timothy, should he go on a transformative journey, then revert back to his more self-destructive tendencies, or will he be able to learn from that journey and keep his knowledge, even if the bracelet should leave him?
That's ultimately a question that can only be answered next week on SST Book Club Chapter 3. Stay tuned for a special interview with the author, SST Mantis himself.
All right, welcome to our next session. Sorry.
segment.
All right, welcome to our next segment, which is going to be D&D. Today we're going to be hosting the Session 0, where I'm going to be creating my character.
But first, I'm going to give the backstory and lore of the world we're about to dive into. The way this D&D segment is going to run is that every time we have a guest on, or rather that SST Mogul will play the only recurring character who will interact with a variety of zany characters played by each of our guests on future episodes. So today we're just going to set up the world and we're going to build a character for SST Mogul.
All right.
Prepare to enter the nation and land of Pyruvia, a coastal nation pinned by the World-Spine Mountains and the Great Ocean, lying to the north of the nation of Valine, and a trade partner with the island nation of Cesarine. Our hero, who will be played by SST Mogul, is a student at the University of Pyruvia Nitria campus. That's a city on the northwest coast of the nation of Pyruvia. The university has schools for wizardry, sorcery, and artistry, so we'll see which one SST Mogul decides to build his character into. The campus is located a half-day's ride north from Nitria, the largest city on Pyruvia's northern half. It's a small college town where the campus takes up about half of the region, and then there are quarters for all the staff and students, and then a small shopping district. It lies about a half day's ride on horseback from the larger city of Nitria. Other notable features of the land of Pyruvia are the capital Carburon, located further to the south of the nation, much closer to the land of Valine, which has its own capital, Valum, right along the Pyruvia-Valine border, and controls the major river that both serves as the border between Pyruvia and Valine, and also feeds the rivers of Carburon, the Pyruvia capital. In this way, Valine is sort of the larger power, asserting its political, geographical, economic influence over Pyruvia. And I do expect this to come up in the larger story. But we will begin small in the college town of Tofan, a half-day's ride north of Nitria, the largest city in the north of Pyruvia. Should we get into building the character?
I think so. All right.
So I think the prescribed way to build characters is a little strange, because it has you choosing race before class, which doesn't make too much sense to me. So I think we'll go class first, then race and background at approximately the same time.
All right. That sounds good.
What class are you thinking for? Actually, name first.
So the name of my character is going to be Nomeo Gundle. It's a name that I just thought up, actually.
It sounds like you may already have concepts for the race of this character, then, perhaps.
I do have a very defined concept.
And that would be...
That would be a gunnel, the type of fish.
Okay.
No, it's a gnome. A gnome is going to be my character.
Okay. All right, there are two variety of gnomes. We're using D&D 5e. I know Wizards is doing like new stuff, but I don't really care. And we're just using PHB backgrounds and stuff. So you can be a forest gnome or a rock gnome.
Which gnome is taller between the two gnomes?
I'm pretty sure they are the same size. The major difference is that the forest gnome will be hardier, while the forest gnome will be more dexterous, while the rock gnome will be a bit hardier.
All right, it's the forest gnome then.
Okay, you're going with the forest gnome and character Gnomeo Gunnel. So you can note down gnome for your race. And we'll note for now that gnomes get bonuses to intelligence and dexterity, which will come up as soon as we get stats and class. You can put down speed as 25 feet. That just matters for combat, which we don't need to get into for a while.
Where do I put that down?
Put it down on
here.
Speed. All right. Forest gnome. Gnomeo Gunnel. Let's move on to class. And then for stats, I think. Yeah, we'll do that after class.
All right.
What do you have in mind? Will this gnome be an intelligent wizard? Will this gnome be a courageous fighter? What class will Gnomeo Gunnel be?
I've been thinking rogue for Gnomeo Gunnel. I think the forest gnome will help that. It's going to be a bit more dexterous.
A scoundrel who uses stealth and trickery to overcome obstacles and enemies. Okay, yeah, you can write down rogue for that. Now, rogues can, in fact, attend the University of Pyruvia Nitria branch. They attend the School of Artistry because they are, of course, con artists and escape artists above all else.
Do I need to play an instrument or do an art or no? Or am I actually an escape artist?
I think there's a school for rogues.
All right.
Sure.
That's excellent. I wouldn't have had it any other way if I was the head of the school.
Okay, let's roll your stats. Now there are 6 stat categories, so we're going to do 6 rolls, note them down, and then you can assign them how you like to each category.
All right. First roll is going to be a 10. Second roll.
Oh, no.
Second roll is going to be a 4.
Oh, wait, no. That's a 6, right?
1, 2, 1, 1.
Oh, shoot.
It's going to be a 4. Third roll, it's looking better.
That one could be good. No, roll the high.
It's looking good.
Oh,
14.
14.
Gnomeo's on a roll.
This one could be tough.
Tough luck, we got a 9. All right, 2 more. A 7? What's going on?
Oh. Gnomio's luck has run out, I'm afraid.
And we finish it off with another 10. All right,
Okay.
So I think I'm going to put my 4 into intelligence.
Oh, no.
And my
Okay.
14, I'm going to put into, I think it's got to be dexterity.
Dexterity is a good choice for your high number for rogues.
Now, strength, I'm going to go with a 9. I think that's balanced for strength.
Strength is not as important for
Constitution,
rogues.
what does that mean?
Constitution relates to your toughness. A lot of endurance-based things use Constitution.
I'm going to put a 10 for Constitution. Okay. Charisma, I'm also going to put a 10. And then, lastly, I got a 7 for Wisdom. I don't think you need smarts to be in the school of, the rogue school.
Yeah, because you have an intelligence of 4.
That's okay. I already know all I need to know.
Okay, so your stat...
Nomeo Gunnel knows all he needs to know.
Your stat bonuses will be assigned based off of these scores. So with a strength of 9, you will receive a -1 penalty to any ability check you have to do with strength. So you can note down -1. For a dexterity of 14, you'll receive a +2 bonus.
That's what I like to see.
For a constitution of 10, you receive 0. For an intelligence of 4, you receive a -3.
Oh, that's rough.
For a wisdom of 7, a -2. And a charisma of 10, another 0.
That's not bad. Okay.
Let's move on to your class abilities now under Rogue. That'll be under. We are building a level 1 character, I should note. What do they get? At level 1, you have a proficiency bonus of +2 that will apply to any check you make in a skill that you are proficient in. Your starting HP will be 8 plus your constitution modifier, which is 0. So you can write 8 HP for your current hit points.
Where do I write that?
In current hit points.
Oh.
And then it'll just go down if you take damage.
Is 8 good?
It's fine.
All
Rogues
right.
are not the most fragile class, but you aren't going to be able to take hits like a fighter or a barbarian.
I don't need to take hits. All right.
Now let's continue on to proficiencies. This first one is not a skill proficiency, but rather armor. You are proficient with light armor. You can note this down on just like one of the blank parts. Simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, and perhaps most crucially, rapiers and short swords. You also have proficiency with thieves' tools, which is, I guess, an abstraction of all thievery equipment.
Okay.
Your saving throw proficiency, these come up when you need to basically clutch up against something.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be dexterity and intelligence. So you can note those down up in the saving throws category. Just fill them in right here. And that should help mitigate your -3 intelligence a little bit. That allows you to add your proficiency bonus to saving throws. Now, for your skills, you get to choose 4 from this list: acrobatics, athletics, deception, insight, intimidation, investigation, perception, performance, persuasion, sleight of hand, and stealth. You can see the list here.
Okay.
You're going to select 4.
I think I'm going to select intimidation. I think investigation will be good too.
Now that is an intelligence skill.
What? Oh, well. Sleight of hand I like. Is dexterity. That one's going to be good. Let me see another dex skill. I think stealth. I'm going to be going to stealth A after all. So I'm going to write an A there so I know.
Okay, let's move on to equipment. Just note this down at the bottom again. You can choose to start with a rapier or a short sword. I believe these are both weapons that can use dexterity. I forget what it's called. They're both finesse weapons, but let me double check. Yes, they are both finesse weapons, which means they attack with dexterity instead of strength, which is what you want as a rogue.
What other weapons can I have?
Oh, you are required to have a rapier or a short sword.
Okay, I want the rapier then.
All right. That will do a D8 of damage, a D8 of piercing damage when it hits.
Alrighty.
Moving on, you get a short bow and a quiver of 20 arrows or a short sword.
I'll take the short bow.
The short bow. Okay. You get a burglar's pack, a dungeoneer's pack, or an explorer's pack.
I'm taking the burglar's.
It's gotta be the burglar's pack. You get leather armor, 2 daggers, and thieves' tools.
Alright.
Okay, that is all of your base equipment that you get from your class anyway. Now at level 1, the rogue gets 3 features in addition to their base equipment. Expertise, sneak attack, and thieves' cant. Expertise. Choose 2 of your skill proficiencies or one of your skill proficiencies and your proficiency with thieves' tools. These skills you have expertise in, which means you double your proficiency bonus for them.
So
you get to choose 2 skills, or you can choose
How about
one
my
skill
burglar's
and
pack?
Thieves. Burglar's pack is not available.
Okay, so I want the thieves' tools then. And for skill, I think I'll choose Constitution.
That's a ability skill.
Oh, it's
These
an
are your
ability.
skills.
Oh, my bad.
You're taking the thieves.
I'll take
tools.
sleight of hand then.
Okay, expertise. You also get sneak attack, which we'll talk about once we get into real combat. But the last thing you could note at level 1 is thieves' cant, an additional language that is spoken by criminals.
That's cool.
The last thing I think we need to complete this character is your background. Okay, let's just go through a lot of these, I guess. Well, it looks like there's some good ones up front. Yeah. Acolyte, charlatan, criminal, entertainer, folk hero, guild artisan, hermit, noble, outlander, sage, sailor, soldier, urchin.
What is urchin?
Urchin is someone who's grown up on the streets alone, orphaned, and poor. Does that sound like Nomeo Gunnel?
No, it does not. I think Nomeo Gunnel is more of a hermit type, actually.
More of a hermit.
More of a hermit.
The hermit is someone who lived in seclusion, either in a sheltered community such as a monastery.
The monastery sounds about right.
Nomeo grew up in a monastery, alright. So from being a hermit, you gain 2 additional skill proficiencies, medicine and religion. You can
Wow.
write those down. And an additional tool proficiency in the herbalism kit. You get to choose 1 language of your choice in addition to common, we'll say. And we won't get into all that now. So just don't worry about it. And you do gain additional equipment, a scroll case stuffed full of notes from your studies or prayers, a winter blanket, common clothes, an herbalism kit, and 5 gold pieces.
Okay.
Now, you could roll on the table for your life of seclusion reason, or we could just kind of make it up as it goes along. They give a lot of ideas for why you might have been a hermit.
I think I was searching for spiritual enlightenment.
Okay.
So number 1. Actually, let's roll the dice. I think that's more fun.
That'll be a D8.
A 5.
You needed a quiet place to work on your art, literature, music, or manifesto.
The manifesto will have to do. All right. What do I put that?
Nomio's manifesto.
Here?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, just write it down as a character trait. There are a few more traits, but I think for this podcast, we have done enough to introduce Nomio Gunnell, and we'll hopefully see him in action soon once we get our first guest on next week in the the great land of Pyruvia, in the University of Pyruvia, School of Artistry.
All right, that concludes our second episode of our podcast. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned for next episode where SST Mantis, the writer of the Magic Trio, will be joining us for an exclusive author interview. And we'll see what his takes are on some of our theories on his book, and maybe involve him in some of our other segments too.
I hear he's got quite the character for D&D.
Oh boy.
Segment. See you all in a month.